And the things that he called out, oh, by the way, after everything is, balls rolling, we accepted the offer. Oh, well, that stuff kind of was happening.
Yeah.
And these pages are gaining, hundreds of thousands of people within a short time frame that they never would have. And it's like, oh, somebody clearly unlocked my account now.
Welcome to the Big Brand Theory Podcast by Blackwood Creative.
So, Elon Musk made a strategic move and not quite closed on it yet, but has purchased Twitter, which is kind of a flex, I would say.
Yeah.
But very interesting. So, why does that matter to us when it comes to marketing? Because Twitter is a social media platform, and a lot of places use it for marketing, even though now it's shifted quite a bit towards, we'll say, sports, politics, and news type stuff. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how things change with the Musk at the helm.
I think that basically what's going to happen is two things. The first thing that's going to happen is a lot of things are going to open up. He's already stated that he's going to open up the algorithm to be open source, essentially. And that's going to open up the floodgates for a lot of different information, a lot of optimizations, and also a lot of clarity to the public of, A, what's been going on, and also what the opportunities are at with Twitter. The other part is I think a lot of people are going to have more of a voice now rather than a marginalized community. And that's kind of what it's turned into. It's not just left or right or extreme left or right. It's like you said one thing that was like a check mark essentially on their feed. They basically like kept you from reaching anybody.
Yeah.
And that's like point proven. It has happened. Like you can just look at metrics and just see like my content has not changed. I didn't stop posting for weeks at a time. Like literally my reach is just diminished.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that needs to be talked about regardless of just Twitter, like social media in general. Like who should have the power to be able to like kind of cut you at the knees, and if that even should be a possibility. Because as we talk about free speech, and Elon is very big on that, about kind of equalizing that ground. It's not just right or left. It's literally like he welcomes people to give him negative feedback because it's like part of that.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand why people would have a problem with that. I feel like a lot of times it comes down to they don't really like what's being said. Mm-hmm. So then they want to turn it off. And I think that's kind of the problem that we've had nowadays is people are so quick to flip the switch versus just having open communication and stating what they want to say, and if somebody doesn't like it, then you kind of move on. The whole moving on part is the part that people kind of let go and for some reason just don't want to do anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big thing, and I think that's a huge like maybe the only reason, but like at least a huge reason why he would sink $44 billion into a company like this, which is overvaluation. But to me, it's really going to be interesting because I know a lot of marketers have just given up on Twitter. They're just like, you know what? Like, it's just like none of our clients are ever going to use this in a way that's effective for growing their business. It is like, okay, let's see how things change. And I wonder if the floodgates will open up or if there'll be some sort of like trickling into like, oh, let's dip our toe back into this Twitter thing and see if it works, but still very, very skeptical about it. I think it will work for some people. I think, again, it still feels like even if they stop throttling certain accounts and banning people and shadow banning and all that kind of stuff, like even if it's just like equal opportunity, right? Then I wonder if that will change the effectiveness of Twitter in a marketing mix for most businesses.
I would say the greatest thing that this will affect is personal brands and content creators, because now they get the ability to disseminate on another platform that is not going to hinder them. Like, there's a lot of people that are, they jump to TikTok, and Instagram Reels are okay, but there's so many issues with it. Just, that's a whole nother thing. But, they jump ship and they kind of left it in the dust because it wasn't giving them what they needed, and they were being hindered. And why would you give effort to something that's hindering you when you can go to another platform? Right. And that is the basis of why Twitter has been where it's at for the last better part of like 4 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. Is people gave up on it, like you said, unless you're like an athlete or like, I don't know, a strategic business coach or anybody that had like Gary Vee, anything like that you already had a name and a following before they started implementing those practices. That kind of like, it's like a barrier to entry, essentially. Like, it's kind of astounding to me of how many people have jumped from that ship and kind of vowed never to go back regardless of what's going on. It's like they burn a bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like, it goes back to, will Elon's take over and the changes that he makes, what's going to happen to the company? Is it going to grow, or is it going to, slow down? But B, will his influence on how a social media platform is run, will it translate over to any of the others, specifically Meta and Facebook and Instagram and all of those? Like, will his ideas, his operation become the norm? We saw this when kind of the crowd speaks out and says, hey, we want this. There was easiest, most visible one was minimum wage. Everyone's saying you need $15 minimum wage. Well, they didn't raise it, but everybody was demanding it, and it basically happened. Will the same thing happen here, where Elon says, hey, I'm opening everything up. Come see it, whatever. Like, we're not hiding anything. Here's how things are going to operate, blah, 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 free speech all the way.
Well, then both sides. That's the
both
big
sides.
Part.
It's free speech, like, for everyone, not just for the people I like. Yep. And will that influence, will the people demand that type of openness from a Zuckerberg run Meta and any of the other platforms that are out there, and saying, like, look, Elon Musk is doing this over at Twitter. We really like it. We want you to do the same. We demand you to do the same. Will it happen? I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see. And I feel like we could see a huge shift in the way that social media channels, platforms are run and operated over the next probably 3 to 5 years.
I'm interested in how it changes, but what I see kind of happening is, out of all the things that have happened to Facebook and Instagram, Zuckerberg and all that, like him on trial, and there's so many people that they appreciate what he did, and yes, he's smart, and he did a lot of good things at the beginning, but it's like you said, like the whole open source part of kind of coming clean, essentially, as a business. The two things that I think would save Facebook and Instagram is if they would stop trying to control the algorithm and let the algorithm basically, like TikTok, force feeds you more of what you want. Mm-hmm. It's not just what you follow. Like, you can see what you follow, but like on your For You is an algorithm based on what you've interacted with, liked, viewed a lot, and like that technology should be implemented almost across the board if anybody wants to survive that. Like, legitimately, it's I think that's more imperative than even almost equalizing things.
Do you think Twitter will? Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because that that delineation between like, hey, here's a for you of discovering new things. Here's the feed of people that you have specifically followed, and then you've got search to just find something.
Right.
That trio there feels very comfortable. It's giving the consumer exactly what they want.
It's giving them the choice.
It's giving them a choice. Whereas like Facebook right now, Twitter right now, like it's one feed. That's it. And if you follow, great. If you don't, like now Facebook's trying, I mean, I don't know if the last time you scrolled through Facebook, but like 50% of the stuff, like I don't even follow. It's just like trying to feed me new things. So it's shoving in that for you stuff. And you're like, kind of helpful, but now I'm not even seeing the stuff that I know I want to see. I'm seeing some stuff that I'm like, I'm not even sure if I like this.
It is so biased. It's unreal. And that's what I mean about having things a little bit more in line with, having that algorithm as part of it, show people more of what they want. I'm a fan of a lot of different types of music and movies and all this stuff. So if you look at my algorithm on TikTok, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. If Twitter and Facebook and Instagram would do something of the same, that they would actually put stuff in front of me that like makes sense, like, frontmans of bands or really good photographers or any of that kind of stuff, I would interact with it more. But the problem is that you have, especially Facebook, has put businesses behind a wall. And I don't care what anybody says. Like, you can show me stats all day, you can do whatever. If you're not putting an ad budget to Facebook in particular, right now, if you're only posting organic content, you are reaching nobody. It is definitively, it doesn't matter if you have 1 million people on your page, the average that a business page will see right now is less than 5% of your followers. And that is just based on timing of that you post.
Yeah, it's interesting then going back to Musk and Twitter, like, will he change any of that when it gets into the this nitty gritty of the algorithm, or is he, going open source and like other people? It's like, it feels very much like the ball is way up in the air and we're just waiting for it to drop and see what happens
it's
here.
Purely accountability, right?
Right.
Like, and all things considered, yes, it's a flex, but here's the thing that I think people need to take away, especially from this whole conversation, is he blatantly pointed out that these things were happening. And then everybody, hated on him because he was putting all this money towards a social media platform that he has no business owning and all these things. And the things that he called out, oh, by the way, after everything is, balls rolling, we accepted the offer. Oh, well, that stuff kind of was happening.
Yeah.
And these pages are gaining, hundreds of thousands of people within a short time frame that they never would have. And it's like, oh, somebody clearly unlocked my account now. No more shadow ban for me. So it's like, by doing that and him finally like weaving into that ability to purchase Twitter and have that open source and see all these issues that are happening, because there's no way around that. Like, there's going to be issues. People are going to point out things, and that's fine. But he welcomes that. I wish Zuckerberg would do the same. I wish the same thing for any social media platform that happens. Like, at this point, like, adapt or die, right? Like, that's like a huge thing, especially in social media. Things move way too fast. And at this point, it's not even a fact of, oh, we're going to have so many people join Twitter now, or we're going to have so many businesses that leave this one for this thing. It's proven that TikTok is just rampaging with viewership, and they beat out YouTube for video views.
Yeah, it's
like,
crazy.
What?
Yeah.
But it's just instances like that. Like, at this point, it's not a dancing app. Like, if you still think it's a dancing app, you are wrong. It is such a huge thing for people. And I think that within Elon Musk and Twitter taking over Twitter, he's basically sending out the message to almost every single social platform that, hey, This is about to get corrected. So if you don't correct, people will see that.
Right. What he's doing is going to make what we know is happening, even though it's being denied, it's going to make it obvious. And they will have no option but to adjust and adapt or die.